Alright guys, June 15th, 2020, back on the BMW R1150RT project. We did finally receive our brake pads for the front and rear for the bike from J&P Cycles. So we're just about to install those now. I'm still waiting on my fuel pump, still waiting on my driving lights, but at least we can go ahead and get the brake pads installed, so when we do get the remaining parts in, it'll take a little less time for us to put this back together. So we're going to go ahead and do that now, just from as far as part numbers are concerned. So for the front brake pads, there is the EBC brakes part number, and for the rear brake pads, there's the EBC part number for that. These are the double H sintered brake pads. So there you go, just if you're looking for part numbers. Alright, onto the front left-hand side brake caliper. We'll do that first, and not a lot of tools required for this. Pair of needle nose pliers, a ratcheting wrench, torque wrench, and a pry bar, and of course your new pads, and a T30 Torx socket. And we're basically, all we're going to do is, they call this a grub screw. So we remove the little retaining pin with the needle nose pliers, remove the grub screw with the T30, and then remove the little retaining pin, and then the pads should just slip back out the top. Again, that's what the pry bar is for, just to pry the calipers apart a little bit so I can get the pads out and the new ones in. So here we go. Well, one thing's for sure, the front brake pads are easily serviced on the BMW RT series. So the grub screw has been put back in. It's been torqued to a torque value of 7 Newton meters. We've got the little split safety pin back in the groove in the grub screw, and the grub screw through the locking plate, and everything's good to go. Little anti-seize on that as well, so we don't have any issues the next time we go to change those pads out. So, onto the right hand side of the bike. That took about 5 minutes. Alright guys, new front brake pads are installed. That's literally a 5-minute job. The only difficulty is just spreading the pads a little bit to get the new pads in there, pushing the pistons back, but other than that, easy peasy. Onto the back, which is a little more difficult. You've got to remove the caliper to actually get the pads in the rear, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that now. So on the rear there are two caliper mounting bolts, and the one actually holds in the little grommet for the ABS sensor back here as well. They are T45 sockets, so we'll go ahead and remove those. Then we'll flip the caliper over and remove the grub screw from this side, and there's a little split pin here on this side that you got to be careful of, and we'll bring you back. Alright guys, new pads are in. We need to push the pistons back a little bit, so we'll do that in just a second. We've got our little pin here, and just giving it a quick scratch down with some emery cloth, and now we're just going to hit it with a little bit of brake lubricant, and we'll slide that back in there and put the lock pin on it. Alright guys, we're going to call the brake job complete. We've just rechecked the torque on the front caliper mounting bolts, which are at 30 Newton meters, and the rear caliper mounting bolts are 40 Newton meters. So those have been torqued. Everything's been signed off, and we'll move on to the next project, which will be getting to these little driving light or fog light, whatever you want to call them, is under this rubber cap here, and I have a feeling I'm going to need very tiny hands to get up in that area, so wish me luck, because my hands are definitely not tiny. Okay, here's my bike tip of the day. I've shared this with my car folks, but haven't shared it with my bike folks. So I'm going to lay down and I'm going to reach up to get a better view at this fog light, and hopefully I'll be able to reach it from lying down. But I find it's quite comfortable to have a pillow. These make excellent pillows. So there's my shop tip for today. Alright, so there's where we're trying to get to. A little better shot of it there. I'll zoom in. So I've got to get my hand up there. Looks like I have one connector to detach and a little clamp to detach to be able to pull that bulb out of there. So unfortunately it looks like it's going to be a little too far out of my reach laying down, so I'm probably going to have to do it a little blind, standing up or kneeling beside the bike. So at least we know what it looks like, and we kind of have an idea of how to disconnect that clip there. Looks like it pulls on the far side, or the side closer to the headlight, pulls down, a little retainer on the left side, and obviously we need to unplug that cable from that plastic clip, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that as well. Alright, gotta get up now. Alright guys, so the wiring has this little plastic tab on it, so it just sort of fits. There's two little locking tabs that you need to pry apart on either side to be able to get to the connection for where the light is plugged into. So just wanted to share that with you. Those can probably be a little bit of a pain to get off if you're just trying to reach up there and don't recognize what you're looking for. So thought I'd share that with you. So we'll go ahead and unplug this and we'll try to pop it out of its mount. Okay, BMW Motorcycle Tech tip number 2 for the day. Hemostats. Medical style locking hemostats. If you got big man hands like me, to get to these little pins here, there's the little clips that hang those bulbs. These are kind of essential in my mind. There's no way I'm getting my hand up in there. So these work perfectly. I do have a bigger, longer set somewhere, but the little ones work perfectly. So just another quick tip to make it easier on yourself. Alright guys, it's the next day and back on the BMW project, and we've picked up some H3 bulbs locally. I still have not received my order that I ordered on May the 21st, if you can believe that. It's now June the 17th, I believe, so shipments are definitely slower during this current pandemic, so plan accordingly. Anyway, we'll see if we can get these fitted in. It looks like they're going to work. Looks like the bulb mounts are the same, so we'll be careful not to touch the bulb with our bare fingers, and we'll see if we can get our hands up into that little tiny cavity up there. Alright, we'll be back. Alright, cross your fingers, we'll hope this works. Should be a little bit of a blue tinge to this light coming on over here. So let's flip the switch and see if that actually works. There you go. That looks good. Looks much better than the old bulb, that's for sure. So we'll go ahead and we'll, although there's bulbs working on the this side, we'll actually switch it out for the newer style bulb. Alright guys, second bulb is now changed out. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, but we got her done. Definitely those medical forceps work really well in that little tight environment in there to get the little clamps back up on the bottom. So yeah, happy that's done. We'll move on to the next project, which will probably be the fuel pump. All right, back to my nemesis, the fuel pump, which I broke off this top hose fitting. So we've got the new pump. It's a new used pump actually, and special thanks to one of the forum members that I visit. The gentleman's name's Space Wrench, Dave. Thanks for sending that pump. So anyway, the first thing I need to do is I need to rescue my filter sock. So we're going to go ahead and do that, hopefully, and we'll just pry that. It's supposed to be able to pry off just with a screwdriver. So hopefully we'll remove that filter sock because it's in good shape. So we're going to try to reuse that if possible, and hopefully it comes off okay. All right, guys, managed to get the old pump out and the filter sock removed. Looks pretty good, no damage. Two connections to undo. There's a positive lead, which is the green wire, and there's a negative, what is a brown, it looks like, wire. The connections are a slightly different size, so it's a little more difficult to get them mixed up. The studs are actually a different size on the pump. So anyway, the green wire is for the positive side of the pump, and the other's for the negative side of the pump. Alright guys, we've got the pump back together. All the connections are tight. It's actually pretty stressful. I was worried about breaking that off again. It's not an easy job to actually get the pump over the little filter inlet. Over this metal piece, you got to kind of move it out a little bit, push it up, and I was worried about breaking that little fitting off again. Anyway, managed to get it in there, got it tightened up, not too tight, and everything's looking good. So that's ready to go back into the gas tank now, so that'll be the next step. Alright guys, we've got the tank up on the table, and we're just about to unclip some zip ties. So the red zip tie is to identify the vent line that attaches to the yellow zip tie. So if you remember my ketchup and mustard comment, ketchup and mustard go together, so those vent lines join together. And this is the other vent line here that's not tagged, and we have the one electrical connection to make here as well, and we'll pop that back in carefully, make sure everything's connected up, clamped properly, and we'll throw a new gasket in here and screw it in. Okay, that wasn't a lot of fun, but the pump is now and filter are now back in the tank, so we can go ahead and think about putting this back on the bike. So I'm going to clean the bike a little bit before I put the tank on, just to get the areas that I can't clean once the tank is on. So once the cleaning's done, we'll throw the tank back on and we'll move forwards. Alright guys, we're making headway on the bike. We've got the glove box now back installed on the bike. A little bit of a tricky fastener on the inside that you need to really get lined up, and it's a little bit tight back in there as far as access is concerned. But it's on there, so I think we're ready to start digging out the fairing pieces pretty soon. And we'll start putting them back on the bike, so stay tuned. Alright guys, it's about time we put the fairing panels back on, the tupperware as they call it. So we're going to give this a quick cleaning on the inside, just with some detailer and terry cloth, and then we'll attempt to put this back on the bike properly. Alright guys, we managed to get it back together. No spare parts or fasteners laying around, so that's a good thing. So the next step is to clean it up. Still very, very dusty on the outside of the fairing. I haven't cleaned that yet, so that'll be a next step, followed by fuel. Tank is completely bone dry, so we'll have to go pick up some fuel to see if this thing actually starts again. That'll be the next major milestone, and then hopefully fairly soon we'll be able to take it for a ride. I still have to do a few little small fixes, like that little pin that's broken off on these black side panels. We need to fix that. Still need to put my decal on this side. I was thinking about doing it while the fairing was off, but I think it was better to do it with the fairing on so I can get the alignment a little bit better. So we'll work on that as well. And like I said, a good wash, and I think we're ready to take it to be certified and registered for the road. That's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching. Alright guys, cross your fingers. We've got gas in it. Doesn't seem to be leaking. It was leaking a little bit out of the vent pipe, but that's stopped. It was just a little bit of a drip. So that's good. That's stopped. So let's try to fire it up. See what happens. All right. Wish me luck. Of course, the battery's going to be dead now. Figures. Alright guys, success. Started back up after a quick charge on the battery and a couple cranks on the starter. She fired right up, so that's good. So I'll let her idle for a couple minutes, not too much longer than that, and I'll shut her down. And eventually we'll get to take our first spin.